Welcome to Behind the Tools. Here's Traderfy CEO and your host, Michael Steckler.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Behind the Tools from Traderfy. I'm thrilled today actually to have our first plumber on the show. So welcome to the show, Peter. So Peter Booth, who is from PB Plumber, and Peter's up in, I say up, you can tell someone who's from London, up in Loughborough, in Leicestershire, in the UK. Those that don't know Loughborough, so it's kind of the Midlands, really, so not too far from Nottingham, those kind of cities. Loughborough is actually very famous as the world's largest bell foundry. And for those that wonder what a bell foundry is, someone that makes bells, basically, usually for big churches. So actually, Loughborough made the bell foundry there, made the bell for St Paul's Cathedral. It's probably the most famous one that I know of. And it's also, I've always thought of Loughborough as a place that sort of churns out great sports people. So ones you would know, Paula Ratcliffe, Sir Clive Woodward, amongst others, and Seb Coe, for those that are old enough to remember the kind of middle long distance runner. So yeah, cool place, nice place to visit, famous for its university. So Peter, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
No, you're welcome. Did you know it was the largest bell foundry? I'm always intrigued when I have people who are from a place or based in a place about how much they know about their location. Is that a famous landmark?
I drive by it quite a lot. It's tucked in a lot of terraced houses out the way, but if you know where it is, you know where it is. It's a nice old building.
Yeah, cool, great. And maybe to start, so Peter, you've sort of amassed quite a following across sort of Instagram and YouTube. So PB Plumber has around, at last count, 55,000 followers on Instagram and about 35,000 followers on YouTube. But I was intrigued, on your Instagram profile, you describe yourself as not an influencer. Do you want to sort of walk me through why you put that and what the thinking was there?
Yeah, a big thing for me is that I am a one-man band from a very small village. And the only difference between me and every other plumber in the UK is I put a lot of time and effort into putting stuff on social media.
Yeah.
And that's the only difference. I don't want people to think I'm something I'm not. I'm not the best plumber in the world. I enjoy doing Instagram. I enjoy doing Twitter. I used to do a lot of Twitter.
Yeah.
The YouTube, it's more of a job. It's hard work. I class it similar to paperwork because I have to sit down and edit the videos. I don't enjoy that at all. But I do like the good feedback I get from people that say, the nicest messages I get are people that say they'd lost love for the trade, they'd lost interest. After seeing my videos, my passion for being a plumber, it's reinvigorated their passion for the trade and inspired them to maybe change the way they were working to refresh it a bit for them. And now they're enjoying the job again. So I do it for that, really. Yeah. Teaching apprentices from my experience, because the big thing, apprenticeships are really hard to get. And I was lucky because my granddad and my dad were both plumbers, and I got an apprenticeship, and I've learned from my granddad, my dad, Kev, and other plumbers I've worked with. Now, a lot of people these days can only get into our trade by doing what they call a fast track course. So they're only getting what they're taught in the classroom, and then they've got no experience. So if I can pass on some of my experience, which I've got from my granddad, my dad, other people I've worked with, to them via social media, I like doing that. So that's why I do it.
Yeah, I think it's really. Sorry, go on.
I don't do it to tell them to buy this tool and do that. I only show things that I use myself. So the influencers, it don't sit right with me. So that's why I put it on there.
Yeah, cool. Okay, great. And then you just touched on something I thought was quite interesting. Actually, just reminded me. So I'd seen that you'd sort of done some tweets around people that were looking for apprenticeships that sort of reach out to you, and you'd kind of got their location and that kind of stuff, which I thought was a really great thing to do. Do you have much uptake of that? Do you have any other plumbers that sort of come forward and say, great, there's a fit, or let me meet this person? Does that sort of borne any fruit for them?
Yeah, the last one I did, he got an interview with a company that messaged me on Twitter literally the next day.
Oh, wow,
so
great.
When someone messages me and says, Pete, I've either lost my job or I'm an apprentice, I'm looking for a firm, I just say, send me a photo of you at work so people can see that you actually do the job. And then details like where you live, if you can drive, what level apprenticeship you're at,
Yep.
and then I'll put it out there on my Twitter, because the thing I like to do is I've got this platform now that I've built up. I want to use it to do some good. So
yeah, I thought that was really impressive, and I think it's definitely a gap, because one of the things I keep hearing and seeing everywhere in the world actually is just this shortage of great people. And obviously apprenticeships is a really good way to plug that gap. Do you think there's a resistance, or I say resistance is probably the wrong word, but some of those apprenticeships are hard to come by because people are just too busy to train someone on the tools?
Yeah, I think for me, you get an apprentice, and for the first year or year and a half, they slow you down because you have to show them. And then as soon as they get good and are at the point where they can earn you money, they realize that they could go and do it themselves, and they leave. And you've wasted all that time training them up to then create your own competition.
Yeah.
But the other thing I get a lot from the apprentices is they go to work for someone, and that person won't let them do anything. They're just fetching stuff from the van, tidying up, and not actually letting them do the work, because it slows the person down. So it's a really tricky balance to get a good employer to have a good apprentice that's going to stay with them, be loyal. Once they've qualified and they can earn the employer money, pay it back to them by working for them for the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
To pay them back for the time when they weren't any use, they weren't earning the money. And also in that 2 to 3 years, you can gain a lot of experience. You can possibly build up a customer base, because everyone knows once you get good, you start doing jobs at the weekend for yourself to earn a bit of extra money. So I think it's important that if you do get an apprenticeship, to pay your employer back by not leaving as soon as you can leave.
Yeah, that seems to be one of the biggest issues. And do you think the government schemes are helping in terms of funding that, or you think the biggest issue is still really that it's a time drain, and you're spending a year basically having to help someone whilst trying to do the job?
Yeah, I mean, I've not got an apprentice. I'm happy working on my own. I'm happy being a small but busy plumber. I've not got any ambitions of having staff and a company and stuff like that. So I'm not really clued up on what the process is, but it does sound like I see people asking questions on social media quite a lot of what do I have to do about getting an apprentice, contracts and things like that. I don't know what the government offer in terms of support, but it does sound like it's a bit of a minefield. So maybe that's why guys like me don't take on apprentices.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, there are some good schemes and ways of that sort of almost paying for itself, but I think the biggest issue is not necessarily paying the apprentices, that you have someone on board that you have to train. And I think we generally always hear that from sole traders. It's like, look, I'm trying to do the job, and train someone seems to be part of the issue. And then sort of going back a step to YouTube and Instagram in particular, what made you do that? What made you do your first video and put yourself out there?
My first video I ever did was about getting a cup of tea on a job. And it was all the different scenarios. The customer that says, there's the kettle, there's the tea bags, help yourself. The customer, generally the little old ladies that keep offering you a cup of tea, down to the people that don't even offer you a drink and make themselves one in front of you. So it was a little video about that. And honestly, before I pressed upload, this was on Twitter, I felt sick. I just thought I was going to get, trolled, abused. People were going to, not like it. But they were really nice. The comments I got were really good. And because it was something people can relate to, it was popular. So I just started doing videos of my experience at work, tried to make them a bit funny. And it just grew from there. The more I did them, the more comfortable I became. Like talking to you now, when I first started doing social media, I wouldn't have felt comfortable at all. But now it's sort of second nature to me.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so, on average, how many people don't offer you a cup of tea, or I say a cup of tea, a drink?
It's a lot of people. Yeah. A lot of people. The older generation, you'll always get offered a cup of tea. It's because I do a lot of work in rental properties. I just don't think tenants care. They're not bothered in the slightest, so they won't even offer you a drink. A lot of people. I meet a lot of people who don't drink tea, which is crazy to me because I drink at least 10 cups of tea a day.
I hate to break it to you. I'm not a tea drinker, so I actually do always offer someone a drink I always offer someone a drink if they come round. But I would always caveat that by saying, look, if it's a cup of tea, obviously I know how to make a cup of tea. It's not rocket science. But I have to get people to be quite specific about how they like their tea, right? Some people like it weak, some people like it strong, and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah,
Well,
I'm intrigued by that. Yeah.
I like strong tea with plenty of milk in, no sugar. But I'm like the next level. If there's workmen working on the street anywhere near my house, I'll go out and ask do you want a cup of tea, lads? The worst one is if they say, do you want a cup of tea, and you're gasping, and then they come back and say, oh, I've run out of milk. So you've been promised one and then it doesn't come to fruition. That's the worst one.
Yeah, that's really true. I always offer someone a drink. Not necessarily a cup of tea. I'll just say, do you want a drink or something? Or if I'm going to get a coffee, even if I go down to the shop, actually grab a coffee, I'd like, do you want me to grab you a coffee? And yeah. I think it's just it's a nice gesture. A lot of time people say no, but if nothing else, it's a good gesture.
One of my favorite things when I'm in a job is if someone offers me food, because you can say no, but it's nice if they do offer to feed you. But I like it if I'm working in someone from a different country. Like if I'm working, we've got a lot of Indian people in Leicester.
Yeah.
So if they offer me something that's traditional to their country, I love experiencing that. I think that's great.
Yeah.
So I've got a story about a guy. So he was working on a job for a lady and he was there all week and she was making him food every day, making him lunch, and he thought it was brilliant. At the end of the job, when he put his invoice in, she sent him an invoice for all the food he'd had. It was brilliant.
How much was the invoice roughly per day? How much was she charging for cooking?
I think she charged him £5 a day for the food, which I thought was brilliant. And another guy, he said yes to some food, and this lady brought him a plate, and he said it just looked disgusting. It was a Sunday dinner, so she brought it up to him, and he just scooped it out into his bucket. But she came up about 2 seconds later with the gravy and said, "Oh wow, you've ate that quick." I don't know if that's true, but it just tickled me, that story. I thought it was really funny.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Invoicing for the lunch. I have to remember that one. Yeah, that's or for the cup of tea. Cool. So that sort of got you into it, and then I guess from there it's kind of just kept growing, and you definitely seem to have hit a positive trend that other plumbers. And is it mainly plumbers that are following you?
Yeah, mainly plumbers. I like electricians. I think I would be an electrician if I wasn't a plumber, although it's a bit more. I don't want to upset the plumbers, but it's a bit more. You need to know more for that. Obviously, gas engineers, we need to know a lot for that, but I think there's more to electrics. I'd quite like the challenge of that. Anything really. I'd also quite like to be a carpenter, I guess. But sorry, what was the question?
Well, I was sort of asking. It's actually my main question was: is it mainly plumbers that are following you?
Oh yeah. Apprentice plumbers. I get the odd homeowner that's interested. I think some people find me by the sort of the nice copper work I do, because people appreciate a nice job. I think I've got a mixed bag, but on my statistics, if I look at my YouTube statistics, say it's 99.98% male, and it's 18 to 35-year-olds is my sort of demographic. So
yeah, I saw the job you did on the outdoor hot tub. I think you did some nice pipe with the cyberpunk sort of look the guy was going for. So I'd imagine it's quite a good way to showcase. I mean, even if you haven't got loads of followers, and whether you think of yourself as an influencer or not for other tradespeople, I think it's actually a really good way to showcase work. Like if I was looking for a plumber, or I was doing some renovations, I probably would do a quick search. And if there's a showcase of the work on the website, but even better, like YouTube videos that show them actually in action, I think it's quite a powerful tool. Do you see that a lot? You said you had some homeowners. Do they tend to, if you have a job, do they tend to say they saw your work online first or not?
I've had a few, but I think the guys, like on my Instagram especially, you've got Unequaled Heating, and he does some amazing. He's in London. His copper work's phenomenal. I think he gets a lot of work from his page because he does such good work. My page is more varied. It's sometimes I don't get that many jobs that are nice. I'm a reactive breakdown gas engineer. So my sort of 60-second fault finding videos where I give a bit of experience on fault finding, the sort of old school methods that I've learned off my dad and my granddad, things like that are popular. But occasionally I do get the nice job where I do the nice pipe work. So, but I don't tend to get work from a business. My work's too busy anyway. It's all word of mouth local. But I've had a few people from YouTube but a lot of the time they're nowhere near where I live. They're ringing me from like London saying, "Oh, I'll follow you on YouTube. Can you come and do that?" And I'm like, "No, I can't. You're miles away, mate."
Yeah. That makes sense. And then, you know, touching on that, one of the things I was also interested in is you sort of got involved in manufacturing your own tool bag. Do you want to walk me through that? I thought that was really, really cool. Dare I say, almost a little bit influencer-like, but you know, it's pretty incredible. I think it's because there's complete. Going back to your earlier point, it's very authentic because, you know, you're a plumber, you use your tool bag all the time. You're obviously passionate about it. Do you want to maybe talk us through how that happened and what the result was?
Yeah. So I've always wanted to design my own tool bag because I've used all of them and I've never been 100% happy with a tool bag because they're just not suited to the different shape and size tools we carry. There's a lot of tool bags for vertical storage, for screwdrivers and things like that. But we have pipe slices, we have tubs of paste, silicone grease, a lot of strange shapes and things. So what I would find is I would buy a kit bag and then I would modify it. So I'd be strapping things, making holes in the bag, adding out little tubs and adding them to the bags. So it's always something I wanted to do. And Tony, who's the owner of Velocity Pro Gear, had sent me out a couple of his bags to review on my YouTube channel, which I did. Give an honest review. In fact, he fell out with me on the first one because I said the bag was too big and too heavy. But I had to say that because it was too big and too heavy. And now, a few years later, he's fine with that because he agrees. And everyone said it. And I said at the time, if I hadn't have said that, it was too big and too heavy, and people bought it, and they'd be like, "Why didn't you tell us it was this big?" So, but we got off to a bit of a shaky start. But then I mentioned to him when I was talking one day about I've always wanted to do my own bag, and he just said, "Well, do you want to do one with us?" So I sent him a picture of what I wanted to do. I went in to meet him and Reese, and we sat down with a kit bag and we took it to bits, and I told him all my ideas. And then he made a prototype, which he came to meet me. And then we changed that, and then we made another prototype. And then amazingly, he said to me, "We're going to go out to China to meet the guy who's going to make your bag. And we're going to sit down with him and you'll tell him what you want, and then we're going to make it." So it was just this amazing opportunity where they took me to China. I met the guy, Tim, who makes the bags, sat down for a couple of days going over it all, and then we made it. And it's been really, really popular. Every time they come into stock, they sell out immediately. And I've had such good feedback about it. And then from then, because the first one was meant to be a one-off, but because it was so successful, he then let me do another bag. And now I'm on I've got 4 out available to buy at the minute, and we're just developing the 5th one now. So it's been really, really cool.
Yes, it's really amazing. And is that going to eclipse your sort of day job at some point, do you think?
Well, I don't think so. Like I've been talking to people recently about my YouTube getting more popular. And then you talk about the revenue you can make from YouTube, and they say, "Oh, you won't have to work soon." But my content is me working as a plumber, so I always have to work. It doesn't work if I'm not working. And people will only believe what I say or believe in my kit bags when they believe, or when they can relate to me, because I do the same job they do. I work 6 days a week, you know, grafting as a plumber. Why would you listen to someone who doesn't do the job?
Yeah, quite. I know. I was going to say, I think that's one of the powerful things about, you know, I think the fact you say you're not an influencer, one of the powerful things I've seen from everyone that I've spoken to who's sort of in this game and actually has quite big social media followings, is they don't think about it that way. It's kind of authentic. It's just, I'm doing this because I'm good at this work. I like showing off my work, the good and the bad, right? When things go wrong as well. And I think that's why you get the followers. As soon as it just becomes, I'm going to manufacture this and make it a business, I think it's probably a hard thing for people to resonate with as much, right? If they're a plumber, they won't buy into it. So that's quite a powerful tool.
Some of the most popular stuff I do is when I go wrong, because I show it, and a lot of people don't show the bad stuff. Well, I cut through a live main. That was probably my most popular one. But I like to, on my YouTube, when we go wrong, don't edit it out. Just say, "Look, we've gone wrong here. This is what we did to fix it." Because everyone makes mistakes. And that's the best way to learn, is to make mistakes. So, and also for apprentices, there's a lot of pressure on them to, you know, they never want to mess up, and it holds them back.
Yes.
Whereas if they realize that we all make mistakes daily, just do it and learn from it. As long as you learn from it, it's great to make mistakes, I think.
Oh, I even as an end customer, I think viewing that stuff is really powerful. I think it's actually a really powerful tool because it's a level of honesty that, like, hey, if I get these people around, they're going to be completely transparent about stuff does go wrong. It's just the nature of the job. And I think the fact you're prepared to show that online is quite a powerful tool. And then one of the other sort of questions I had, because you're our first plumber, you're a gas engineer as well. I don't know how big an impact this has or is going to have in the longer term, but sort of the government changing regulation around new homes and trying to obviously get rid of gas boilers over the longer term. Is that something you think about or worry about? Does that have an impact, do you think?
Not in the slightest. I don't do new builds. If you think about how many gas boilers are out there at the minute,
yeah,
in existing dwellings, that if they need work on or replacing, this law or this rule that may or may not come in doesn't apply to them anyway.
Yeah.
So it's only for new builds. I mean, how many more new houses can we build?
I was going to say there's not that many new builds. Yeah, correct. So it's sort of okay, cool.
But I don't know. It might not even ever happen. But if it does happen, then they're going to need to replace it with some other form, and then us in this industry will be the guys that train up to do that work. So
do the next thing.
There's always going to be gas boilers. You're never going to be able to upgrade someone to a different system, in an old house or a flat, or So I don't worry about that.
Yeah, great. Okay. What would be the alternative, do you think, when you think about it? Do you think about that at all in terms of what would be the alternative and what would you train to, when I talk to a lot of electricians there, a lot of them have gone down the path of getting themselves trained up on, EV and electric cars and figuring out those things. Do you think about that at all? Is there things you look at and think maybe I should get into that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to do a course called a Heat Geek course, which gives you an insight into all the different types of, air source, ground source.
Yeah.
They're talking about hydrogen boilers, electric boilers. So there's all kinds of things that you could, I mean, it's good to get in there early, but because of the job I do, reactive plumber, breakdown engineer, it's not something that I'm geared up to do how I've set my business up. So it's not something I really think about, but I am going to do this course so I'm clued up on it, because you never know what might happen in the future.
Yeah, of course. And in terms of your business, you're a sole trader. I know you work with your dad, still helps you out occasionally. Do you have a plan? Do you want to keep it that way? Do you like working on your own? Is that what you want to keep doing? Obviously you have plenty of work.
Yeah, I'm happy working on my own. What I've done since I started doing my social media is I've put it out there. If anyone reasonably local to me has got an interesting job, a big project on that I can go and work with them on, I do that. And that sort of breaks up the mundaneness of doing gas certificates, breakdowns all day, fixing toilets and stuff. Yeah. So at the minute, I'm on a job with another engineer called Ben. I work with Marcus quite a lot. I go to help him on big jobs. He comes to help me. I've worked with a few engineers in my area, so that's nice to do stuff like that. It breaks up the boredom of working on your own. But I'm happy on my own. I'm happy being a small company, but in demand. And I've got a lot going on. I work. I have to edit social media content. I've got a gym addiction, so I have to spend 2 hours in the gym every day.
2 hours every day.
Always thinking about what. Yeah, I'm always thinking about what I'm eating. So there's so much going on in here.
When do you sleep?
Exactly, yeah. What it feels like, I finish work, I go straight to the gym, because if I went home, I'd fall asleep. I finish the gym, I eat, I fall asleep, I wake up and I'm back at work again. Sometimes it's a bit like that, but I've got so much I want to do. Yeah. And so, I'm doing the kit bags, I'm doing social media, I'm running a plumbing business, I'm going to the gym. It's just a lot. It's a lot to do.
So it's quite, and being on your own. I mean, one of the other things I saw you touch on one of your YouTube videos is sort of, I guess, the mental health side of things of working on your own, and also the pressure. I mean, you just described what you described there, right? Kit bags, running a social media channel with a lot of followers now. It's not like your first video, right? You now got 50,000 people, which is a lot of people who are interested in what you're saying. How do you manage that side of things? Because that must be tough on occasion. And I watched one video in particular where You know, I think it was a tough thing that you dealt with really, really well. But do you want to maybe walk me through how you think about that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I used to put a lot of pressure on myself to do one Instagram post or one social media post every day.
Yeah.
And that was too much pressure, too much stress. I only like to put out content. I wouldn't put anything out there. It has to be what I consider beneficial to someone. Like I started off, you see a lot of posts on Instagram where it's a load of new tools spread out. I don't think that benefits anyone. So I like to do something where I'm giving them some information or showing something I've done, like a job. But I was putting so much pressure on myself to do that. So sometimes you go through stages where you don't even enjoy it. And what's the point of doing something you don't enjoy?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I've always been, I feel like I'm always in a good mood. I'm always happy. But just before lockdown, I had my first ever panic attack. And this was driving to a job. I didn't like the customer. I didn't like the job. And I was driving there. And all of a sudden, I got this sort of wave. It was like pulsating through my chest into my head. And it just felt really strange because I was driving to this job and I didn't want to go. And then I was sort of, before I would get to a job, I'd get in there, I'd do it, no problem, get in my van, go to the next job. I was getting to jobs and I was sitting in my van, looking on my phone, just delaying going in because just wasn't motivated. I was just, there was something about it that I wasn't up for it. And I just realized that I was either too stressed or I was a bit down because this like Instagram, social media had sort of taken over my life and I couldn't enjoy doing the job anymore. And yeah, it just obviously it was affecting my mental health. I was under a lot of stress, and then I started having more panic attacks. So kind of like, luckily for me, lockdown came at the best time because it went really quiet with work, and I spent a lot of time at home under less pressure, and I started to enjoy life more. And then when I sort of started to feel better, I got my sort of love for the job back. So now when I get into a job, I'm like, I want to get in there. I wonder what I can film on this job. I wonder what video I can make from this job. And I seem to have got that back. But as a man, talking about my feelings, I would never have done that in my personal life to my friends and family. But I found doing it on social media, I just found it easier, and putting it on my YouTube then got so many guys going through the same thing. And then I got them to talk to each other and giving each other advice on, how to sort of deal with it. Because like I've said on numerous occasions on my social media, whatever you're going through as a tradesman, someone else has gone through it and come out the other side better, or is going through it. So you've got to realize you're not on your own. And I think that helps people to know that they're not the only one. So,
yeah, I think you hit on a really good point there. I think it's years ago, I remember chatting to and it's not really directly comparable, but there's some similarities to a taxi driver in London. I think a lot of taxi drivers really struggle because they're on their own all day. Now, although they have customers getting in the car, some of those customers aren't that nice in terms of people. They don't necessarily want to talk or all those types of things, and they struggle with it. And one of the issues was that no one really in the industry acknowledged it. Right, they had very high mental health issues. Right, statistically it was proven, but they weren't talking to each other about this. So I think people like you doing that on social is really, really powerful, because it probably does talk to those people that maybe are bottling it up, aren't prepared to talk to their friends and family about that issue. So it's what did you do in terms of in that lockdown period? What was it that you did to kind of retrench and get yourself back to a kind of position where you felt stable and comfortable?
It's like the thing I said to you a minute ago about finishing work, having something to eat, and then being so tired you fall asleep. And then when you wake up, you're back at work again. Because the work slacked off, I was at home, I was having more time to get, I had a kitchen fitted probably 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And I only finished the tile splashback and the decorating from the kitchen during lockdown, because I'd not given myself any time to do anything I needed to do for me, because I was putting all this pressure on myself
Yep.
to do the work and to do the social media. And the biggest problem I have with work is struggling to say no to people. I don't like letting people down. So even if I'm too busy and they ring me up, I'll say, yeah, I'll pop in on my way home. And I was just getting home later and later and later. And you just can't, not even for the money, just the fact that I couldn't say no to people.
Couldn't say no. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a really common problem that people feel they can't say no, or even just say, hey, look, I can't do it for another 2 weeks. And I think in many instances, you'll find that end customers, in my experience, will be like, look, I really rate you. That's fine. I can wait. Because everyone obviously is top of their list of things they want to get done. There's always time pressure, but actually the reality is most customers will probably wait unless it's something, very, very urgent.
I think a lot of tradesmen have that feeling that they're scared that they're not going to have any work to do, so they don't like turning work down. But when you're a good tradesman, you're never going to not have any work to do. And even the times when you think, oh, I've got a slow day tomorrow, I'm going to do some paperwork, I'm going to tidy the van out. You wake up in the morning thinking that's what you're going to do, and then the phone rings and you do a full day's work. You never actually get that time to do that because you're just always busy. But yeah, I still have that fear now that I'm not going to have anything to do, and that's probably why I don't say no to work. So
yeah, I think that's a common issue. And then the very, very last topic. I know you have very strong opinions in this area, and it's one of the things you've talked about a lot on your social. And it's a problem that we've seen across lots of our customers is around sort of van theft or people breaking into vans and stealing tools. What do you think should happen around that? Is there things that you think should change to fix that issue? Do you want to maybe just give us a sort of 20 seconds on how, I know you feel very strongly about it, as I guess most people would, right? It's probably one of the worst things that can happen to you. It's your business and someone's taken away, a part of it, which is expensive and hard to replace. But yeah, do you want to talk me through that?
I'll struggle in 20 seconds, but I'll give it.
Yeah, maybe not 20 seconds. But
So I got sick of seeing post after post after post of people having their vans broken into. So I decided to use my platform to do something about that, or try and do something about it. So I did a petition to government. I set up this campaign called November, which was a take on Movember. And I quickly realized that people don't care. Unless you're a tradesman, no one else really cares about it. And it was a real struggle to get people to sign this petition to try and I wanted tougher penalties for people caught stealing people's tools, breaking into vans. I wanted the resale of stolen tools to be, harsh penalties. In my head, I just thought, you get to a car boot sale and you see a guy selling hundreds of power tools, 10 Makita radios, all without the boxes, maybe without batteries. A policeman could just go to that car boot sale, walk over and say to him, where have you got all this from? If you can't prove it, confiscate the lot, slap a big fine on him. I just couldn't see why that wasn't happening. But after doing my campaign, speaking to the police commissioner, speaking to my MP, the police haven't got enough numbers to police it. The insurance companies will do anything they can to get out of paying you, and no one cares enough to even help us out by signing a petition. So it just really, really gets me down. And you've got to mark your tools, you've got to protect your van. Van manufacturers making vans that can be broken into without even damaging the van. It makes me sick that can even happen. I don't know how it's allowed to happen. At this point, when I first started it, I was optimistic that I was going to do something, I was going to change something, that we'd go to Parliament and the government would help us out. But the more I've done it, I've done 2 campaigns now that have gone nowhere, the more cynical I am and just think nobody cares about us. So just protect your tools, put extra security on your van, and you just got to try and look after yourself, because no one else is going to do it, and it's only going to get worse. If you put deadlocks on your van, if you put an alarm on your van, they'll cut a hole in the roof. They'll do whatever they can to get in. But you've just got to do what you can do. But I hope it will change, and I will keep trying. I always use my platform to raise awareness. If someone has been broken into, I'll put it on my Twitter. I tag in the government. I tag in my MP. I tag in the van manufacturers. But I don't know what we can do. We need to get together and think of what we can do to try and raise awareness.
It feels like an industry. I mean, and again, not just plumbers, but right across the board. has some power behind it. Yeah. Okay. Cool. It's an area. Yeah, we've looked at it as well as a thing that we know affects a lot of our customers.
I'll be doing it again this year. So if anyone's got any suggestions, I will be teaming up with some other people. Nick Bundy, we're going to team up. Try and use a few platforms. But yeah, we need to do something because it's just getting ridiculous. You can't. The other thing is the mental health side of it. You got to think young lads in the construction industry are quite high up on the suicide rates. Now you imagine you're struggling for money. Maybe a couple of customers haven't paid you for work you've done. You're busy. You've got jobs booked in. You wake up in the morning, you go out, and all your tools are gone.
Yeah.
Is that going to be the thing that pushes someone over the edge? It's not fair to have your livelihood, your means of earning a living taken away from you.
Yeah. And
you have no backup from the police, the insurance company who you've paid to help you out in this very situation, try and get out of it. It makes me sick thinking about it, but I will keep trying to do. If anyone's got any suggestions, then just get in touch with me and let me know.
Yeah, and similarly, I think any listeners hear this, reach out to us as well, and we can help with that. I think it is. I agree with you. I think one of the biggest issues is not necessarily about the money. Obviously, is a big part of it, but it's waking up and coming out, and then you can't do your work, you can't get paid, and it just becomes a sort of vicious circle. So yeah, it's a big problem. Great, Pete, you're doing some really admirable stuff. I think some of the things you're pushing with the industry is really cool. We finished the podcast with a few questions, one of which I think you've kind of already answered, but I'll ask you again and see if you have a different answer. The first one is, if you had to pick another trade, I think you said you'd be an electrician. Is that still the case? Is that the trade you would pick?
I quite like doing the electrical side of my job. It's very basic, but I do. Yeah, I would like to be an electrician, carpenter.
Yeah.
Or maybe something completely different. I love animals, so I'd maybe do something with animals.
I'd be a vet.
Yeah, maybe something like looking after abandoned dogs or something like that. I don't know if I'd like to see an animal in pain, so maybe not a vet, but something looking after animals.
Dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Great. Your favorite on-site lunch when someone's not making you lunch and charging you?
I like to get a jacket potato. That's my favorite.
Jacket
lunch.
Potato. And what do you put on it? Yeah. Cheese or beans, or what's your sort of topping?
I have cheese and tuna, and then I buy a tub of cottage cheese from the shop.
Cheese and tuna. Oh,
yeah,
that doesn't sound good. cheddar cheese and tuna, tin of tuna, tin tuna.
Yeah.
Oh, I suppose actually, no, I quite like it. Yeah, nice. Okay, that keeps you going for a long time. I'm only do 2 hours in the gym, and then go to tool brand. If you had to pick one, apart from obviously your velocity bag.
Yeah, I mean, I like a pair of grips. So channel lock grips. It used to be Crescent, but channel lock grips, Nipex pliers wrench, Wera screwdrivers, S-wing hammers, backhoe for quite a few different bits. So I normally find a company does a certain tool well, and I'll buy that tool they do. Stabila for levels. Yeah, cool. But a good old pair of grips is my go-to tool.
Yeah, great. Okay, and then one of the last questions really is around, things are opening up in the UK, and to sort of timestamp this podcast, England are hopefully about to win the Euros, touch wood. And we'll be watching that tomorrow. So if there was a sporting event or live music event that you could go to, now things are starting to open up, and hopefully it fingers crossed it stays that way, what would it be?
Well, I actually bought during lockdown when I was having my little depressed anxiety phase. I was making myself feel better by buying things, and one thing I did buy and I forgot, but I got an email about it the other day, was I bought tickets to see Elton John. That's in November, so hopefully that'll be.
And where's he playing?
That's in Birmingham.
Oh, I can say the NEC. Is that what it's still called?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah. Oh, cool, great. Oh, that's hopefully it all goes ahead as planned. I'm sure it will. Good stuff. And then the last question was, we talked about the great stuff you're doing. If there's, for this podcast, is there anyone else that you come across that's interested that you think would be a great guest for us for our next one?
Yeah, I follow a guy on Instagram, probably my favorite account to follow. It's called Dies in Every Film, and he makes knives.
Yeah, I looked at that. Because I was intrigued at sort of some of the accounts that were linked to your YouTube, and that was one that came up with he's got a lot of subscribers. Yeah, do you want to walk me through what he does?
So he's an ex-squaddy. He's got some really good stories about his life in the army, but he makes knives, and he's really funny, charismatic. He's a Yorkshireman, so he's just down to earth, just a nice bloke. And when I first started following him, he just had one son called Rico, and he's a right character. He's into superheroes and stuff. Just a nice little family man making knives, got a good story. I actually had him make me a knife because I wanted to support him. So I commissioned him a knife, and then I like that so much I got another one made. But yeah, he's probably one of my favorite Instagram accounts. So he'd be good to have on your podcast.
Great. Okay, cool. Well, Peter, this has been an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate you giving up the time and for being so open and transparent about the stuff that some of the great stuff you're doing and some of the things you've wrestled with, which I'm sure lots of our listeners, I know they, looking at the comments on your feed, lots of people are going through. And I think the more people that are sort of open about that stuff, the better. So I really appreciate you doing that. And I'm guessing, I appreciate you eating this time because you probably should be in the gym, shouldn't you, at this point?
I made sure I went before, so I looked.
Oh, you went before? Great. Well, look, I really appreciate it. And fingers crossed for tomorrow for the football, and look forward to catching up again soon. So thank you again. And to all of our listeners, if you enjoyed this, then please do rate, review, and the usual good stuff, and give us feedback. And yeah, Peter, appreciate it. And we'll chat soon.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
No, you're welcome. Our pleasure. Thank you.
Cheers.
And that brings us to the end of this episode. Behind the Tools is brought to you by Tradeify, job management software for your trade business. If you enjoyed the podcast, let us know by leaving a review, and be sure to tell your mates about it. Email behindthetools@tradeifyhq.com if you or someone you know would be keen to join the show as a guest.